New fallout today from an Obama supporter putting the president on the hot seat during a very candid discussion on live TV Monday. Here is Velma Hart, and the question now heard around the country.
I'm one of your middle-class Americans, and quite frankly, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted of defending you, defending your administration, defending the mantle of change that I voted for, and deeply disappointed with where we are right now. I've been told that I voted for a man who said he was going to change things in a meaningful way for the middle class. I'm one of those people, and I'm waiting, sir. I'm waiting. I don't feel it yet.
So could Velma become this year's Joe the Plumber? Richard Socarides is former special assistant to President Bill Clinton and my guest now. Richard, the Joe the Plumber moment in the campaign became really important just because he sort of stood for how a lot of people felt. And the question is whether she does as well, and could that come back to haunt this president?
Well, I don't think it'll be a Joe the Plumber moment because I think this exchange had a lot of dignity to it. And this woman, I think, spoke for a lot of Americans, but did it with a lot of dignity and a lot of respect. I mean, the little piece that just before the piece that you just showed, she started off her questioning by saying how deeply honored she was to be here with the president. I think it was significant that she was an African American woman. She was more like kind of an older sister, I think. You know, she was saying, you know, I'm with you, we're with you, we respect what you're trying to do, but people aren't getting it.
But that's why she's such an effective critic.
Yes,
because she's not somebody who's got an axe to grind. She likes President Obama. She believes in him, or at least did. And now, you know, the bloom is coming off the rose because she's been waiting for real change, for a real impact in her life, and quite frankly, isn't seeing it.
Yeah. Here's where I think should be significant. I mean, I don't think this will be used against him, although it was a very starkly personal and kind of dramatic moment. And people will remember it. But I think, you know, it's very easy for a president to be cut off from what people are saying. And I think this woman spoke for a lot of people. And every once in a while, the president will hear something from someone in an impromptu exchange, and it'll really stick with you. And I think this is the kind of thing that will stick with her, because you could tell this woman was a supporter, was speaking from the heart, and was really saying to him, you have to change course. You now need to do something differently, because what you're doing now is just not working for us.
But it seemed like, Richard, you tell me, but it seemed like it almost was bigger than that, because when I saw that exchange, I thought, this is the reason his poll numbers are where they are. This is the reason you've got people like Sharon Angle and Christine O'Donnell, who people paint as extreme, nonetheless rising above in the polls, or at least in Sharon Angle's case doing all right, and Christine O'Donnell winning the GOP nomination. It's because the election so much is not exactly about these Republican candidates like Angle and O'Donnell and Miller in Alaska. It's about Velma. It's about the Velmas of the world who just say, I just want another option. This isn't the way we've gone. It's not working for me. I need another option.
I mean, I'm kind of agreeing with you. I mean, I think it was a significant moment, and I think we'll look back on it and say, but I think it's a significant moment in which the president can change course, in which the president will have an insight into something.
How can he change course at this point?
I think with Larry Summers leaving, and with perhaps Rahm Emanuel leaving, which we predicted here 2 weeks ago, I think it was, right before anybody else had it. I think he has an opportunity with Larry Summers leaving really to change economic course. Rahm Emanuel may leave.
Is it too late? I mean, people are now looking at this. You know, we're pushing 2 years into his presidency, and they don't see the meaningful change. They keep being told by the White House it's coming, it's just not coming fast enough, and they don't believe it. And they see 9.6% unemployment, and they see a focus on cap and trade, and they see a focus on health care. Even though they said that relates to the economy, people didn't seem to buy it. And they saw only leading up to the elections, the last minute, oh, now I do care about the economy. Let me roll out another stimulus, which isn't going anywhere, and another bill, which isn't going anywhere, and tell you that I care about the economy. And you got people like Velma saying, all I know is I'm about to have franks and beans again, when I thought my husband and I were past that point in our lives.
Well, it may be too late to affect the results of the midterm elections, but it's certainly not too late for his presidency. I mean, you know, President Clinton, who I worked for, was in a very difficult spot 2 years into his presidency. He was very effectively to turn it around. He got into trouble with some other things.
Wasn't he so different from President Obama? Wasn't you tell me, as somebody who worked closely with President Clinton, wasn't he so different from President Obama? Don't you see a big
They're-
contrast between those two men?
They're very different people, profoundly different people, but anybody can change. I mean, I think he has an opportunity here. You know, presidents, 2 years, if he's president for 8 years, 2 years is only, a quarter of it. And I think he has a big opportunity to change course, to change direction. I think that we'll have to see what happens in these midterms. I think, the midterms, we're starting to hear, I'll make another prediction for you, just for you here today.
Bring it.
I think the momentum on the midterms is starting to shift. I think it'll start to shift back to the Democrats. I think you just start to see a very little bit of it. We'll see a little bit more of it next week, but I think it may be the beginning of something big. Now, I don't know if it's going to shift back enough for them to hold on to the House, but I think you start to see that they'll probably hold on to the Senate, and they may, just may, squeak by and hold on to the House.
I got to ask you one other question before I let you go. So one of the criticisms of President Obama in the exchange with Velma is his body language, that he laughed while she was making her point. He had that big smile, and he sort of like went back, and he looked a little uncomfortable. And some are saying it plays into the theme that he's arrogant, he's disconnected. Is that legit, or is that people just overanalyzing
I think
him?
people are reading a little too much into it. I mean, I looked at that, and I actually think that it's hard to hear what he was getting from this woman. What he was hearing from this woman is very hard to hear. I mean,
It's awkward to sit on the
it's
receiving end
awkward
of
to
that.
sit, and you could tell almost like the people in the room. People in the room were thinking,
Yeah, this thing is coming off the rails."
This is like just a little uncomfortable to be in the room. Like,
Yeah.
But I thought that she was very dignified. I thought that he handled it in a very dignified way. I thought there were maybe a couple of uncomfortable moments where he kind of laughed a little bit.
Sometimes
where
you
he was,
laugh if you had a
yeah,
bad of
you laugh when you're
discomfort.
nervous. Yeah,
Sometimes you do.
But I think it was fine. I actually think at the end of the day, this will be good for him because it showed him listening to real Americans, actually listening, sort of maybe taking a little medicine from an older sister. And if he uses that as something that he keeps in the back of his mind as a turning point, what he has to do, he's got some real opportunities now.
All right. One man's perspective.
Well,
Richard
yeah,
Socarides.
One man's perspective, right, if you believe it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you were right about that Summers thing. Thank you, sir.